Welcome back to Interjections. Inter, top of the table again. That's right. A big win over Lazio combined with a complete collapses by our rivals means we're headed into the international break in pole position. We're going to break down how it all happened for you. I'm your host, Andrew. I've got Mikko and Sterling here with me. Mikko, what's happening?
We're in a good place. Feeling good after this kind of round. So it's, I don't know. It feels this is rare that we got the international break with this kind of situation. But yeah, looking good.
Sterling, you started off your podcast journey as a part-time contributor to Interjections, but you're playing more and more lately. You're on Carlos Augusto. How are you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm liking my new role on the right wing here. Shout out to Jay for getting a girlfriend and no longer being an incel. Now he has a life and doesn't want to talk to us anymore, which I respect, actually. So I'm happy to pick up the slack.
It's healthy. Few people need to touch grass in life more than Jay, so glad he's getting out there. Let's get into this match. I'm going to start by giving big credit for this victory to Kivu because we've lost this game so many times before. And what I mean is a game where every set of eyes in Italy was on us, knowing what was at stake. If we won, we were going top of table because of the results from all our rivals. Napoli lost, Milan dropped points, and it was all there in front of us. And this was against the Lazio side who, look, Lazio is not a Scudetto contender. I think the last time I checked, they were even in the bottom half of the table. But this is a team we have to beat. This is a team we dropped points to in a critical game last year. So to get off the mat, to win, to give ourselves a real shot here, it was an impressive performance. But I will say a lot of my optimism is subdued because I know we have more work in front of us. So it's really a tale of two competing facts for me. One is we won a tough game in a pressure-filled spot when, like I said, everyone was watching. But it's not enough to declare our problem solved because we still need to beat a big team in order for us to really feel good about ourselves. But the story of this game for me comes down to our pillars, our senators, if you want to say. Our star players finally lived up to the billing, and it was 3 minutes in when Lautaro goes ahead and he makes his presence felt with just a classic Lautaro finish. First touch, no thinking, just shooting, slightly scuffing the shot into the side netting. And from there, we were in control. From there, it never felt like we were going to lose this game. Barella was also fantastic. People have been on Barella a lot lately, but this was one of his best games in a while. He had just two delicious passes. He set up Lautaro and Sucic for big chances that they were unable to convert, but still it was a fantastic effort from Barella in the midfield. And then I'm talking about our star players, and let's talk about a guy who his star has been fading in recent seasons, and that's DeMarco. DeMarco was the man of the match. He set up the second goal by Bonnie, and DeMarco is in the middle of the best stretch of matches in years. He has not looked this good since the year we made it to the Champions League final against City. He looks like a new player. He looks so much fitter. If you want a great stat, DeMarco has played 90 minutes in as many matches so far this season than he did all of last year in all competitions. And you've seen him make subtle complaints in the media that last year he didn't like the fact he was always playing 60, 70 minutes, and we've empowered this guy to play the full 90, partly out of necessity. And he's taken it, and he looks as good as he's ever looked. Maybe he finally stopped smoking cigarettes, who knows? But it was a great performance by Lautaro, Barella, and DeMarco. And those are the guys we pay for these moments. And like I said, I need them to step up in another big moment here in a couple of weeks when we play Milan. This was a good first step. There's going to be more to do. But all our big guns came ready to play. And as a result, this was... Is it fair to call this our most complete match of the season? I mean, pressure-filled spots, good, not great opponents. All our players played well. We didn't give Lazio anything. We kept the clean sheets, and we put ourselves in the position to establish dominance in the league against Milan in a couple weeks. So yeah, for me, performance of the season to date, I will hope we can build on this momentum. I hate that we have an international break right now because I'd love to just get out there and play another match. Mikko, I guess two things. Do you agree this is our most complete performance of the season? And thoughts on DeMarco, the man of the match, and him kind of rediscovering his stamina and form?
Yeah, I agree. This was the best game given kind of the stakes and the situation in general. Of course, we played good games before, even great games. We scored a lot of goals, but opponents were maybe not. They were not at the level as Lazio. So I would say also that this was the best game, especially looking at the past games we've had. We had before Lazio match, we had 2 wins, but they were very kind of unconvincing way. We didn't. Someone could say maybe we didn't deserve to win. Of course, we deserve to win because we scored more goals, but the performances weren't great against Verona and Kairat. And you mentioned Kivu, and I agree that he was kind of the catalyst here, that he was able to get totally different attitude from the squad for this match, and being the last match of the round, so everyone was indeed watching like what's gonna happen. Are we going to take our spot at the top with Roma, or are we going to crumble as the rivals did? But we did not. We played a great game, and that was very, very nice to see, kind of the proper reaction after those 2 matches. As for DeMarco, yeah, he looks very fresh, and I don't know if there's any truth in those reports. I don't know, was it maybe Gazzetta who reported that Kivu is using a different kind of training, so maybe longer training sessions, and there's a more kind of a physical kind of a, how do you say it, pressure to the players each day when they are training. So maybe, I don't know, is that true? But I can buy the argument, because our players do not look that tired, and as said, DeMarco, he can run, he can run 90 minutes, no problems. Bastoni can do the same thing. He was, by the way, very good as well in this match, pressing all the way in the opponent's box, which resulted the first goal actually. So yeah, looking good. DeMarco is at the form of his life, and I agree with you also that it's a shame it's the break now, since we got this kind of a performance, but I hope we are not losing the touch, and we will be raring to go against Milan, but more about that later.
Yeah, I would agree that this was a really good performance. I have to be honest, I like this performance a lot. I'm not sure that I absolutely loved it. There were some things that I didn't love about it. And to be honest, it's going to sound very nitpicky, but I thought that the attitude was great. We were super up for it, especially coming out of the Kairat performance, which was quite frankly trash. Um, Kivu apparently, there's some reports that leaked about him basically giving the hairdryer treatment to the team after that match, which I'm hopeful that he did. I think he probably did, and that's a good thing, because I think it was the right moment, because they almost let a match slip to a team that they had no business even being in a competitive match with, and it's always better to do that type of stuff after a win. Because it's better to lay into them when they're in a good place mentally after a win versus if they're already down and you don't really want to kick them when they're down. So I thought that we approached this match much better from a mentality standpoint. The only thing that I was nitpicky about was that it seemed like we had a lot of energy, but it didn't seem like we were always necessarily thinking through a lot of the moves, a lot of needless turnovers, in my opinion, as we were trying to be a lot more vertical and play a lot quicker. I have no problem with us being quicker in transition and us trying to play a bit more one touch and certainly being vertical, but it seemed like at times we were a little bit frantic on the ball and it resulted in some unnecessary turnovers. And there was one moment where, Lazio did put us in a difficult position. We got away with it, despite the high line and Cherby his slow legs because we have a Kanji back there, so that helps. But um, that was the only real thing that I was a little bit weary of. I remember in one particular instance where you know, um, Hakan has the ball and he just basically smacks it 30 yards right off the forehead of Susic. And I'm just like, what? Why was that pass necessary? I think that we could have just been a little bit more calmer and deliberate in our buildup at times. But I think that overall, again, this is a big positive moving forward because the mentality of how we approached the match was really the biggest takeaway here, and we can work on some of those minor details in the possession in the build-up. But if the approach is not right from the beginning, then none of the rest of it really matters. Um, I also feel like defensively in the match we were good for really long stretches, better than we've looked at in a lot of matches this year. Certainly, what you would consider to be the more difficult matches. But there were some issues towards the end, and maybe it was when we started to drop off a little bit. The Zelensky goal that was disallowed, I think we can all agree that's a tough one to disallow. I do understand it's probably the right decision if you look at the actual laws because it did result in essentially the transition moment. But I mean, it seemed like it happened, a minute before the actual ball hit the back of the net. So it was a harshly disallowed goal. And I think based on our performance on the day, a 3-0 probably was a more fair reflection of the scoreline versus the 2-0. And I think that after that, we kind of dropped off a little bit there. And, Sommer had to make a real save late in the match that, listen, if it goes in and it's 2-1, it's nervy. And we know that this team doesn't always do well in those types of moments. So luckily it didn't happen. And I think again the 2-0, really 3-0 would have been a better reflection of the overall match that we played. So um, all in all, really sets us up well for these matches that come after the international break. I'm glad that we get to go in on top, joint with Roma, of course, but um, I think that this is good for us mentally after some of the struggles that we've had early in the season. And now we get to potentially slay a demon here with playing a really big match. And to me, this is the trickiest one because we have Allegri. It's a Milan team that we've struggled against in recent times, and it's going to be really interesting to see if we can overcome this hurdle. And then we turn around and go directly to the Atletico match away, which is probably one of the toughest matches in Europe to play. I mean, if you look at their home record, they are almost unstoppable at home. I think in like their last 10 matches, they have like one draw and the rest are wins. So, if we can go and somehow get two results. And I mean, honestly, I would even be okay with, a draw in one of those matches, preferably the Atletico match. But if we can go and get two results, all of a sudden you start to look at this Inter team a lot differently. You start to look at Kivu as a manager a lot differently as well. And I think it would give us a ton of confidence to really get steamrolling in this season.
You made a couple points I want to pick at, Sterling. I'll start with the latter one about the upcoming fixtures. The Milan game is a must-win. You have to win this game. You have to squash any belief this Milan side has in themselves. You have to squash any psychological advantage they may have over us based off of us being unsuccessful at beating them in 5 attempts last season. Whereas I look at the Atletico game as a scheduled loss. I view it exactly like I viewed the away to Leverkusen game last season, where I'm going in, I'm expecting nothing. If by some means we escape with points against Atletico, great, but we don't need to. It's probably it's the toughest game left on the fixture list in the Champions League for us. We'll worry about it later. Not my priority. My priority is we need to beat this Milan side. But I want to get back to the Lazio game. And really, this ties into the Kairat game as well, which is the attack. And there have been a lot of great statistics shared about the inefficiency of our attack. We create so many chances, and we basically lead all of Europe in missed chances, they're calling it, missed big chances. The two biggest culprits of that so far this season are Lautaro, to no one's surprise, and Pio, who we're all quick to praise, but I will be the first to admit he has missed some open nets this year. He has had some great chances, and he just hasn't quite had the composure needed. He has still been great overall when you consider he's a 20-year-old playing in a league where 20-year-olds generally don't play. But we've left some meat on the bone in the attack, and you saw it against Lazio. There was an attacking instance where Lautaro and Barella had sort of a back and forth where one of us, please shoot the ball. They couldn't make up their mind, and we blew what was an easy goal-scoring chance. And it's just been a recurring theme in the attacks this season. I don't know how much of that is because Thuram has been gone, and we've been missing him for a while. And it's the recurring theme. It's what I'm scared most about. It's our inefficiency. It's the fact it takes us 6 chances to score a goal, whereas our opponents need 1 and they score every time on the counter. And you can't live like that. So it wasn't a problem this week in the end because we got a couple of straightforward victories against Lazio and Kairat. But Mikko, how are you feeling about this attack? Do you think Lautaro scoring a goal here means we're about to turn a corner, or are you concerned that this has just been a problem for us for what feels like a year now?
I'm feeling good that Thuram is back. That's the main point. He got a bit of minutes to his legs. I'm not sure, did he really look like totally fit yet? But I assume he's going to be ready for the derby because he's not with the national team, so he can train like 2 weeks there with the rest of the team and Kivu. I expect him to be the starter, and then of course Lautaro is starting. He's gonna play one kind of friendly match, then should be back by the weekend.
Did you see that the Atletico Madrid players are not going to that friendly match?
Because they weren't vaccinated, so they are not going to fly to Angola.
Wait, hold on. This is news to me. Explain what happened.
So basically,
Argentina has a friendly match in Angola. So Angola pays a lot of money to Argentina FA to have them there. And then they called up, of course, they called these few Atletico players, but they are not going because they didn't take vaccinations or the vaccinations early enough. But Lautaro had taken that, so he's going. But these three Muppets are not.
Yeah, so the 3 are players that got called up from Atletico. Obviously Alvarez, Molina, and then Simeone, the son of Diego. And they just didn't take the vaccines that they were supposed to take to actually be admitted into the country of Angola. So whether they did it on purpose or whether it was truly our bad guys, they're not allowed to go, and so they're just going to be sitting home in Madrid and training for 2 weeks. So that does impact, I would say, our fixture a little bit.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, this is news to me. That's absolutely hilarious news. I guarantee you that was intentional. Carry on.
Yeah, but I think when it comes to Lautaro, I think this match was a perfect example of what he is. He kind of affects our play he's involved, then he can score a banger, but then miss this kind of a lot easier chance by missing the net completely. I think it's going to continue like this. I hope it continues in a way that he scores a bit more often. Of course, it was like 1 month when he didn't score in Serie A. He scored a few in Champions League, of course, but we need or I'm not saying we absolutely need him to score, but I think we need him to score in a sense that he feels probably more and more pressure when he's not scoring, which shouldn't be the case, but that's kind of natural for forwards anyway.
I think Lautaro kind of is who he is at this point. I mean, he's deep into his 20s. He's in the prime of his career. He's a player that is going to always work extremely hard for the team. He's a player that has a very good all-around game, but he's a forward that's going to miss chances. He's going to miss some big chances. He's going to miss some easy chances. He's going to score some fantastic goals. I think the main thing for us as Inter fans is that we want to see him just get back to where his numbers, at least at the end of the season, are fairly strong. Last year they were not strong in the league; they were very strong in the Champions League. To see him maybe even that out a little bit and score some more league goals this campaign, keep the Champions League goals coming in. I think that that's really what we can ask for from him, but he's gonna go stretches where he doesn't score. It's happened in every single season that he's been here. I don't see why that's going to stop now. But again, I think overall, he's a huge benefit to this team. I would take a Lautaro Martinez over a Mauro Icardi every single day of the week. The modern forward has to press. The modern forward needs to be able to play in possession with the football at his feet, has to be able to have an all-round game. You can't play with these poacher types that have fantastic conversion rate but do nothing else in the game. So, I mean, overall, I think he's still a net positive to have. And I think that you're seeing Kivu try to work on him a little bit mentally. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to his comments about Lautaro and him needing to smile more, but he said it, I think, now 3 different times in interviews. And I think what he's basically getting at is that basically this guy just needs to calm the fuck down sometimes. He needs to just relax. Like
Yeah.
he cares a lot, and that's great because he is the captain and he should care. But it's like sometimes he gets in his own head, and you can see how much it eats away at him when he is in a goal scoring drought. And Kivu's just saying, dude, like just smile, relax, be a little bit more tranquil, and you probably will actually come out of the drought a little bit sooner, and you'll just score more goals in general by having a more relaxed attitude. Because as we always see with him, he just has these rush of bloods to the head where he just smacks the ball sometimes directly at the goalkeeper when he has a chance. I mean, look at the Napoli game, for example. He has a big chance and he just basically puts it right down the goalkeeper's throat. A little bit more tranquility, and maybe he can pick a corner. So, one thing I'll say about Kivu so far is that, yeah, tactically he's been, I think, very strong, but it seems like mentally he really understands what it is that these players need and what they've been lacking, and he's trying to instill that. And so hopefully it works long term. I always say that that the personality of a coach eventually translates to the players, be it for better or for worse. I think that certainly happened with Inzaghi because he was a little bit panicky, and I think that eventually it kind of wore off on the players as well. So hopefully that can also be the case with Kivu, and we see a more mentally resilient team. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time.
Yeah, I always regarded Inzaghi as a bit of a cowardice as a manager. Just everything about him was risk averse. The taking off the players because of the yellow cards, the planned substitutions, the immediately sitting back after you get a lead. It was just your typical, like, if I had to paint an Italian manager for you, it's exactly what I would expect, minus the complaining to the media, which he did a lot more of when he was at Lazio, to be fair. Whereas Kivu's a breath of fresh air in many ways, and I don't want to undersell Inzaghi because he was obviously a success as an Inter manager. There's no denying it, but sometimes change is for the best, and it's hard to look at Kivu's first 11 league matches and 4 Champions League matches and see anything other than a successful hire, because the players clearly respect him. His press conferences are expected. The man can win a press conference. The way he talks about football, the way he explains his decisioning, it's everything makes sense. And I like the way he controls the media when they ask him questions about players who are struggling, like Diouf or Luis Enrique. He's not Conte out there complaining to the media saying all his players suck and that his players are the reason his team isn't playing well and blah blah blah. I like the environment he has created around this club. And honestly, this was such a huge question mark going to the season, and we're sitting here at the quarter way mark, I'll call it. And I think all of us are confident this team's going to qualify for the Champions League. And based on how next weekend goes, we're going to feel confident about this team winning a Scudetto. So it's been a really impressive hire considering how inexperienced Kivu has been. I will say this Milan test is going to be the ultimate. This Milan match will be the ultimate test, because if we get results, we're going to have to play as favorites for a while, and if we don't get results, it's how do you recalibrate? How do you pick the team back up? So this is, you can sense it from the way each of us is talking. This is the critical moment of the season right here. This is an absolutely huge one coming up, but yeah, just lots of credit to Kivu for the way he's integrating the squad. We talked about the way he was able to refresh DeMarco, and I want to take a second to talk about his use of Carlos Augusto, where it's creativity. This guy has played everywhere this season. He had a quick cameo as a midfielder. Now he's over playing a right wing back. I know we've hit on this a little in the past couple episodes. You guys talked about it post Fiorentina, but the angle you took was more so what's wrong with Luis Enrique, which we can move on. I think we have enough data points to know Luis Enrique is probably not working out at Inter. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on Carlos Augusto's performance as a right wing back, how feasible you think this is moving forward. And Sterling, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw some opinions from you about wanting to maybe start Augusto right wing back in some games.
Yeah, I would be open to giving it a shot. I mean, so here's the thing. I think that Dumfries is going to be the starter there, no doubt about that. We just don't have anybody better. And I don't think Dumfries has had a great season so far. I think that he's regressed a little bit under Kivu. He might be the one player who I think has struggled a little bit with the new style of play that Kivu's trying to put it in. And actually, I shouldn't say the one player, because it's not just one. I would certainly say that some of the older gentlemen, such as Iturbi, have certainly struggled with a higher line. But I think that we've been asking more from Dumfries in the build-up this season, and that's just not his forte. He's never going to be technically sound enough to really make passes in tighter areas. So, one thing Inzaghi was really great at was really minimizing Dumfries' weaknesses and maximizing his strengths. I mean, there were times where Dumfries was basically like a winger. He was so high up the pitch when we would be building up that he was basically in line with the forwards, and we would just circulate the ball around the back, and then all of a sudden we would create an overload on one side, and then we would switch it quickly, and Dumfries would be in acres of space, and you just wonder, like, how did this even happen? Like, we've had the ball for 2 minutes, and somehow we are still in behind this team. And that was where Dumfries was best. But now that we've kind of transitioned the way that we're playing a little bit, we're certainly a lot more aggressive in our press. And we should talk about how we're going about that, and the amount of fouls that we had last match. But first, let's finish this point. With the way that we're playing now, a little bit higher up and winning the ball higher up, that just means that there's less space for him. And so, does it make more sense to play somebody who's a little bit more technically sound? I could see an argument for that, certainly. I think we were all hoping that that player would be Luis Enrique, who I think, for all of his weaknesses thus far, is actually pretty good technically. He's just not great at everything else. But with Augusto, despite the fact that he's playing on the right side as a left-footed player, he's technical enough to not be a liability. He will find the open pass, and he can still run in behind. He's got the speed. And he's got a decent enough right foot to still be able to play in at least a low cross. I don't know. The sample size is too small. Let's be honest. It's really been like 30 minutes that we've seen him in that position. So we'll have to see what that looks like long term and if he can actually pull it off. But I think that Augusto as a player is good enough to where you'd want to find ways to get him into the team more. And he's not going to unseat DeMarco at this point. I think we all agree, especially not this version of DeMarco, but he could potentially start giving Dumfries a little bit more of a push than he's going to get from Enrique. And quite frankly, Dumfries needs it. And we also need to be able to rest Dumfries in general, because we can't just run him into the ground. And in these tough matches, you can't trust Enrique, but you can trust Augusto tactically and defensively to not be a liability. So it wouldn't surprise me if we continue to see him more and more in that role. And hopefully, he can actually flourish there, and just another way to get minutes. But he's becoming the Swiss Army knife of this team, because now he's the go-to Bastoni backup. He's definitely the go-to DeMarco backup, and he may even be the go-to Dumfries backup. And so the only thing that's a worry there is that if he gets hurt, we're in trouble. And so that's a weakness in the squad that will need to be addressed at some point. But as of now, I mean, Carlos Augusto, just a fantastic piece to have.
Well said, well said. My opinion about Augusto is maybe, I don't know, is this not like unpopular, but usually when he's subbed in, I don't kind of, or not usually, but when he's replacing Bastoni or DeMarco, I don't usually like him that much, because he's not that type of a, like for like player for either of those two, because those two they are just so kind of so technical and skilled, and they have this hunch to go forward, and all the timings and everything are so great with those two. But then Augusto is he's a bit clumsy with the ball, and he's more this kind of a typical defender type, while Bastoni and DeMarco they can play the ball really. Of course, in many situations, Augusto is a perfect replacement during the match when we need to defend and so on. But for the right flank, that's actually a good shout, because Dumfries is a bit of a same kind of a player in terms of we don't play this kind of technical game on the right side, because that's Dumfries' spot, and Dumfries is more this kind of a battering ram who just runs forward to the box, or that's kind of his strength. And I can see Augusto playing that role. I believe Augusto could be even as good of a crosser as Dumfries. I see Augusto's right foot being very good in terms of if that's his kind of weak foot, because I feel he can actually shoot with his both feet, and yeah, that's a good shout. I like this idea, and it's interesting to see kind of, will this be the way to go forward? Then of course there's the issue that when do we bench DeMarco, and when do we bench Bastoni, if Augusto is kind of the first guy for all of those three positions, as we don't really have a proper guy for any of these spots. Then
it can't go on forever, that's for sure.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Signs have to be made. If Enrique's not the guy, then you got to sign somebody else for that right wing spot, or sign somebody else for the left side.
Yeah, and that's actually what I wanted to finish up this episode by talking to you guys about. I love a good Mercato discussion, never too soon for that. Window will be opening in a month and a half or so, and you start looking at the holes in the squad. I saw an idea online, and I want to float it by you guys and get your thoughts. So let's live in a world where we can only make one signing in the winter mercato, same style as last year. Last year, that one signing was Zalewski. Obviously, an astounding success. He played great for us, and then we ultimately ended up selling him on for some major plusvalenza. Now, what if we sign a right wing back, whether it be on loan, permanently, whatever? You sign a right wing back to challenge and to back up Dumfries, and you move Luis Enrique as our fifth attacker, and he becomes an extra piece we can use off the bench. He can someone who can get behind the defense, take on higher lines. I propose this because I don't know how much value you're going to get sending Luis Enrique out on loan. This guy's a traditional winger. You'd have to find him a comfy landing spot where he's going to get some minutes. Last season, we loaned out Buchanan. Worked really well. We were able to get a sale from it. Don't know if you're going to be able to get enough money for Luis Enrique because of how much you paid for him. That makes selling him possible. So, Sterling, what do you think about signing a right wing back and trying out Luis Enrique as a false nine second striker?
I don't like it. Just to be honest with you, I don't think it's a really viable option. I don't see us. I mean, maybe there'll be matches where we would try some type of like a 3-4-2-1 situation. I know that at one point Kivu wanted to try that formation more. It seems like we've kind of just gone away from that altogether, and I don't mind that.
I don't think you can because of the midfield, right?
Yeah, I don't think we have the midfielders to make that work in reality. And then, I mean, playing him in the front two to me doesn't make a ton of sense either. I don't think he's the right fit for that. So I honestly think that if he's not going to play as a right wing back here, he probably doesn't have a fit in the Inter squad, and it would be best to go ahead and loan him out somewhere if we feel like we can't salvage him. I don't know. I feel like it's still so early that I don't want to give up on him. Um, in the matches that he started, it's not like he's been a disaster. He's not Dalbert. Um, there's something there in terms of his technical ability, but the issue is that he's just been incredibly soft so far. He doesn't want to really get stuck into challenges. He looks like a deer in the headlights out there. He looks like he's second guessing every decision that he makes. He's just not playing with any confidence, but confidence is a funny thing. I mean, if a guy all of a sudden scores a wonder goal and he starts to feel more confident, all of a sudden he could look like a completely different player in 6 months than he looks like right now. I don't think that he'll ever be defensively what a Darmian is as a wing back, but I mean, could he at least be serviceable for the rest of this season? I don't know. It's still it's a tough call to make, but it's still, like I said, so early that you don't want to give up on a guy after 6 months. And I think that the right wing back is the only role that would make sense for him here. If I was going to make one signing in this winter window, it would 100% be a center back, preferably someone who could play at the right center back role, who would be someone more like a nailed on starter. I would like Soleil from Udinese. That would be who I would go for. He actually plays on the left side of their back three, but he is right-footed. I think if you could buy someone like that, then that would allow you to basically play a high line almost all the time. Because then you can move Akanji centrally. Bastoni's quick enough to where, you can still play the high line with him. And that would be the move that I personally would make, so that you can start to play different tactically. But that's more of an expensive signing. In reality, I don't know what our budget is. There was a rumor
Zero.
that we still had. There was a rumor that we still had 25 or 20 million or so left in budget from the summer. I don't know whether or not that's true.
So one Diouf.
We have enough for one Diouf. That's probably not going to be enough to get someone like Soleil, but that's the type of signing I would probably prefer that we make in the winter window, just so that we can just make some changes tactically there. But one thing I did want to touch base on really quickly, since we're talking about signings, is do we have the signing of the summer so far in Boney? I can't think of another player that's impacted their team as much as he has so far for Inter. So as bad as our Mercato was, and I actually don't think it was that bad. I just think it was mediocre. And it was just because of the two signings that we all know are looking like flops. But I think we got a player on our hands here with Boney. I mean, would you guys agree that so far he's been signing of the season for Serie A?
Hold on. Okay. I agree with that take, but Mikko, I'm going to give you dual responsibilities. One, will you take me up on my Luis Enrique striker dream? And two, Bonnie, signing of the season, yes or no?
No and no. Short answers.
All right, we're just getting chopped down here. Who's your signing of the season then, Mikko? What do you got for us?
I mean, yeah, but Bunny has been great for us. I don't know how to kind of. Am I too Che here if I say Modric because he was free? Is it like? Am I leaning too much towards Milan here? But I think he's been great for Milan. But let's not go there now. And I wanna quickly talk about what we wanna sign on the winter mercato. What I would do. That was interesting point, Sterling, about you wanting right center back. I would try to go for left center back because we don't have like a proper sub from Bastoni. As we discussed, Augusto has like many positions to back up. So I would go for the left side since Akanji and Bissek can both play on the right side, even though we know Bissek he isn't that great on the on the right. On the center he has looked good so far. But yeah, I would go on the left side of the defense. One point is of course the defensive midfielder. There's been some rumors about Friendrup as they were already in the summer, but I don't know. Can we maybe make kind of do it without a midfielder? Maybe we could do, but the defense, I think we need more help there.
The problem with a midfielder is like you need to get rid of somebody if you sign someone, and what does that look like? Is that Diouf going out on a loan? Is that us finding a solution for Fortezi, who might be trying to compete for a World Cup squad spot? I don't know what the answer is, but there's no way you can just bring in another midfielder while keeping all the current guys unless you very specifically find a regista. And if you do find a regista, even that might not be enough. So I would like a midfielder signing, but there's too many moving parts. Whereas with a wingback, at least there's a clear path. Or with a center back, even like there's a glaring hole that we need to address because we never really did sign a Vice Bastoni. So you could shuffle the deck around a little bit and get what you need. So I hope we sign someone in the winter mercato. It's going to be such a missed opportunity if we don't, and maybe that means we do need to send someone like Diouf on loan or Luis Enrique on loan. I will say Zielinski was someone I was hoping we'd unload, who seems to be just further strengthening his spot in the squad. I don't think he was great against Lazio. I know he had the disallowed goal. I don't think he was great midweek either, but Kivu clearly trusts him. It doesn't look like he's a player we're ready to move on from. So just looking at the numbers game, midfield feels unrealistic for me.
Yeah, I agree that it's easier to send Palacios on loan because he kind of takes one spot from the squad.
Because no one knows Palacios actually exists as a human being.
Yeah, we can send him on loan. He knows he hasn't played. Okay, he's injured now, but he wouldn't be playing. So
are we sure he's not an AI construct of a footballer?
I guess we don't. Yeah, but let's see. There's like a plenty of time before the market even opens, and the rumors will be flying during this upcoming, month and a half. So a lot of names will be thrown on the table. I'm sure of that.
I do get the shout as Modric as signing of the season. Different perspective, I guess. You have Modric coming on a free transfer. Everyone thought he was going to be good. I guess no one thought he was going to be as good as he has been. I'm curious to see if he holds up over the course of a season. I was watching Milan's draw this past weekend against Torino, I'm conflating that Juve game, but I was watching Milan's match this weekend, and
It was
Modric,
Atalanta, wasn't it?
yeah, that's right. Thank you. And he's slowing down. Like he was not having his like man of the match performance from earlier in the year where he was running everywhere. He was getting way too much time on the ball, and he was able to make a lot of easy passes. It's kind of like Pirlo in the twilight of his career, but we'll see, man. He's like 39 years old. Can he hold up for a full year? Whereas the amount of people, including myself, complaining about Boni because he had 6 goals in Serie A last year, and we were signing a complete unknown to be our third striker. In terms of exceeding expectations, I don't think anyone's topping Boni. And then when you start looking at like the Mercati that Juve and Napoli had, was there a single good signing between them? I mean, overall, I don't want to give Morata too much praise because we struggled in many respects in this Mercato, sincerely Diouf, but it wasn't a bad Mercato. If anything, it was mediocre.
And actually, it was Parma that they played last. They got a 2-2 at Parma. They were 2-0 up, actually, similar to what we did last season.
This is the problem with when we record on Tuesdays. I've already forgotten everything I watched this weekend, but I promise you I watched all these games.
But I see your point about the kind of perspective, like what was the best signing. Because Boni, he looks really good. He kind of looks this kind of player that, okay, he's a big guy. You can throw the ball to him, and he doesn't lose it that often. He's very good at shielding it, but then he's very, very quick with his feet. He can kind of control the ball really well. He's a bit, bit kind of number 9 and number 10 in one player. And
yeah, he's a different player than I thought we were getting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And, maybe I am guilty of just looking at a player and kind of judging a book by its cover, which you should certainly never do, because I figured that we were scouting essentially more of a Thuram type of replacement. And I do think that when Thuram's not in the team, I still prefer, Boni in the team over the other striking option. But he's really like a deep lying player. I think he does his best work actually kind of further away from goal because he's really a link up guy. Like he drops pretty deep at times into the midfield, or he'll go out to the wings, and he just is really good at connecting play, and being just generally dangerous, even with through balls. And like you said, he's also pretty good with his back to goal. Not as good maybe as like a PO. He doesn't quite have that frame, but I thought especially against Lazio, that was his best game so far for me in an Inter jersey. I thought that he was really prudent with possession, barely turned the ball over, still took a little bit of risk here and there, and just in general, just kind of knits things together. Just overall helps our style of play. So, really interesting player to see how he'll continue to develop. Because yeah, he does actually play a bit more like a 10 than I was expecting when we signed him. I thought he would be more of a 9 who would want to run in behind, but he's quick enough, but he's not a burner with pace. I do think Thuram is a little bit faster than he is, but technically he's just really strong, and just seems to have really good decision making as well. So yeah, again, I think he's been the best signing so far this season. I did kind of forget about Modric, who I think is certainly in that discussion as well. But I think it's just more of an indictment on how poor the Mercatos were this season as well. I can't think of too many signings that have hit the ground running. When you look at Juventus, for example, or even Roma, even though they're joint league leaders, their Mercato. I mean, they don't have a striker, so it's like it makes it a little bit easier for him. But overall, I think a really good addition to this team.
Yeah, and just think about all the players Napoli brought in, and I touched on this a little earlier in the just Conte losing his mind midweek about having a sit down meeting with ADL and his Mercato demands weren't enough and all the players they signed. Like, I don't know. It's hard not to look at Bonnie as a home run transfer. Like, if we sold this guy tomorrow, what would he be worth? I mean, he's tripled in value and he's been here for 3 months. Also, I want a during the podcast discussion of how do you pronounce this guy's name? Is this Bonnie? Is this Boney? What am I doing, Mikko?
I don't know. Maybe it's Bonnie. Just Bonnie.
Angion Boni. That's what I'm going with.
Wow. Now, if you could pronounce it like that every time, Sterling, you'd be a Patrick Kendrick.
Dude, screw Patrick Kendrick. Respectfully, this guy has it out for Pio. I don't know if you guys have seen some of his comments on Twitter or X about he was coming for Pio, saying that basically he's like, oh, and what do you say, in 10 matches worth of football, or I don't know if he did it by the minutes or whatever, but he said he scored 2 goals. Like, he's not the savior that you guys think he is. If he's going to be this wonder kid, he's got to do a lot more and all this. Just complete nonsense, man. Completely leaving out the fact that he has 3 assists in that time as well. I think he's got 5 or 6 GA stats during that time period, which, for a 20-year-old at Inter in his first season outside of Serie B is a fantastic return. Just pure bullshit, man.
I hate the guy so much, honestly. Like, he's a former Inter Media House employee. And the bitterness he has towards Inter is so evident in every game he commentates. I seriously just put it on mute when he's calling games.
Yeah, he's obviously it's not in good faith, is what I would say.
And the annoying thing is, being in America. So the way it works is Paramount Plus has their big game of the week where they put on their lead commentary team, whose names are escaping me right now, and they honestly they do a decent job. I like having the dedicated American commentators, but then when they aren't calling a game and it's a marquee matchup, somehow Patrick Kendrick is the guy with the mic, and it's too much. It's like, can we please hire more commentators instead of him and his color commentator who can barely speak English? Anyway, Mikko, wrap this thing up for us.
Forza Inter.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean literally, but okay. We'll continue the episode.
But
we'll end the episode there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We did just hit the 1K subscribers milestone on YouTube, so we do appreciate you all. Thanks for listening, and Sterling, thanks for joining as always.
Absolutely, guys. See you next time.